The awakening soft hum of the medical bay's life support systems created a symphony of peace aboard the healing vessel Serenity's Edge. Zara moved through the corridors with practiced grace, her iridescent blue skin catching the ambient light. As she made her rounds, as a skilled medic of the gentle Nithara race, she had dedicated her life to healing, following the ancient ways of her people who believed all life was sacred. Deep in the ship's lower levels lay the forgotten cryogenic vaults, relics from the Great War that ended 2 centuries ago. Most of the pods contained nothing but empty shells, their occupants long since claimed by time. Zara performed her monthly scans with methodical precision, expecting nothing more than the usual readings of decay and silence. The scanner's sudden beeping made her pause. Pod 847 showed faint but unmistakable life signs. Inside the frosted chamber, she could make out the form of a humanoid figure, larger than her people, with features she recognized from ancient texts. A human. They were supposed to be extinct. Her trembling fingers activated the revival sequence, expecting a slow, controlled awakening. Instead, the figure's eyes snapped open with startling intensity. He sat up abruptly, breathing hard, water streaming from his dark hair. Scars crisscrossed his muscled torso, telling stories of battles fought long ago. When his storm-gray eyes met hers, Zara felt the galaxy shift around them. She knew this face, not from her lifetime, but from the deepest cultural memories of her people. The broad shoulders, the determined jawline, the way he moved with predatory grace even in confusion. This was Jackson Reed, the legendary Shadow Walker, whose name parents whispered to frightened children. "Where am I?" His voice was rough from disuse, but gentler than she expected. He looked around the medical bay with curiosity rather than aggression, his gaze returning to her with something that might have been gratitude. Zara single quotes as training warred with her instincts. Every story told of his cruelty, his ruthless efficiency in battle. Yet the man before her seemed lost, vulnerable even. When he tried to stand and stumbled, she instinctively reached out to steady him, her small hands against his arm. "Easy," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You've been asleep for a very long time." He looked down at her hands on his skin, and something soft flickered in his expression. "Thank you," he said simply, and in that moment, Zara began to question everything she thought she knew about monsters and legends. Fractured Memoria's 3 days passed in careful routine. Zara brought Jackson meals and monitored his recovery, each interaction revealing layers that contradicted the stories. He was polite, even protective, positioning himself between her and the door whenever Dr. Keth visited. The older Nithara's silver eyes held suspicion and barely concealed fear. "You're playing with fire, child," Dr. Keth warned after another examination. "That creature destroyed entire worlds." The council should have been informed immediately. But Zara found herself drawn to the quiet moments when Jackson would stare out the viewport, his expression haunted. "I remember fragments," he told her one evening as she checked his vitals. "Explosions, screaming, but not what they say." "I did. It feels like watching someone else's nightmare." She had prepared a sedative, hidden in her medical kit, but something in his tone made her hesitate. "What do you remember clearly?" "A woman," he said softly. "Nithara, like you, but with silver markings on her temples. She was ... She was trying to help me understand your people's language. We were working together on something important." His hand moved unconsciously to his chest, where a faded scar ran over his heart. "I remember caring about her, deeply." Zara's breath caught. The silver markings he described were worn only by the ancient peacekeepers, extinct for 2 centuries. "Jackson," she whispered, using his name for the first time. "What if the stories are wrong?" That night, she found him in the observation deck, silhouetted against the stars. The sight of him there, vulnerable and alone, made her chest tighten with unfamiliar emotion. When she approached, he turned with a sad smile. "I've been thinking about what you said," he murmured. "About the stories being wrong. What if they're right, and I just don't remember the monster I was?" Without thinking, Zara reached up to touch his face, her fingers tracing the line of an old scar. "I'm beginning to think the only monster here is fear itself." He leaned into her touch, his eyes closing. "Zara, I don't know what I am anymore, but when I'm with you, I feel ... human. In the best way." The space between them seemed to shrink, their faces drawing closer. "Just as their lips might have met, Doctor." Kef's voice echoed through the ship's intercom. "All medical staff to emergency stations. We have a situation." The truth unveiled, emergency turned out to be a data breach in the ship's historical archives. While Dr. Kef dealt with the technical crisis, Zara seized the opportunity to access the sealed records. What she found in the deepest files made her blood run cold. Jackson's memories were returning more clearly now, and his story painted a vastly different picture. He had been a liaison officer, working with Nithara peacekeepers to prevent the war. The woman he remembered, Serafina, had been his partner in both work and love. Together, they had discovered a conspiracy among radical factions from both species who wanted the conflict to escalate. "They used me," Jackson said, his voice hollow as the memories crystallized. "Made it look like I was leading attacks on your colonies. Serafina died trying to prove my innocence. I was supposed to die, too, but someone put me in that pod instead." Zara cross-referenced the files with growing horror. The records had been altered, edited to remove any mention of the peace negotiations or the conspiracy. Dr. Kef's biosignature appeared on many of the modifications, dating back decades. "He's been lying to us all," she breathed. "Your people and mine, we've been living with a fabricated history." Jackson pulled her close, his arms encircling her trembling form. "Zara, if he's kept this secret for so long, he won't hesitate to silence us both." In the dim light of the archive room, surrounded by the weight of hidden truth, something shifted between them. Her hand found his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heart beneath her palm. He tilted her chin up, his eyes searching hers. "For permission." "I don't care about the past anymore," she whispered. "I only care about now, about you." Their kiss was gentle at first, then deeper as 2 centuries of loneliness and longing poured out between them. His hands tangled in her hair, while hers explored the plains of his shoulders, mapping the scars that told stories of sacrifice rather than slaughter. They broke apart only when the sound of footsteps echoed in the corridor. Dr. Kef appeared. In the doorway, flanked by security officers, his expression cold with betrayal. "I had hoped you would be reasonable, Zara," he said sadly. "But I see the human has already begun to corrupt you. How unfortunate." Flight and revelation security. Officers moved with practiced efficiency, but Jackson's combat instincts, dormant for centuries, blazed to life. He fought with fluid grace, not to kill but to protect, his body shielding Zara from harm. In the confusion, she activated the emergency systems, plunging the corridor into darkness. "The shuttle bay," she whispered urgently, leading him through. Passages she knew by heart. "There's a medical transport we can use." They made it to the small vessel, just as emergency lights began flickering back on. Jackson's hands flew over the controls with surprising familiarity, while Zara activated the launch sequence. Behind them, she could hear Dr. Kef's voice raised in anger, ordering pursuit. "Where can we go?" Jackson asked as they cleared the ship's docking bay. "There's a place," Zara said, inputting coordinates. "A sanctuary world where my people once went for spiritual renewal. It's been abandoned for decades, but it's still habitable." The planet Kiram was a jewel of blue oceans and verdant forests, untouched by war or industry. They landed near ancient ruins that spoke of a more peaceful time, when Nithara and humans had first encountered each other in friendship, rather than fear. In the weeks that followed, they created a small haven for themselves. Jackson proved surprisingly skilled at growing food in the alien soil, while Zara established a communication array hidden in the ruins. Together, they worked to decode the remaining archives, building an irrefutable case for Jackson's innocence. More than that, they built something beautiful between them. In the evenings, they would sit by the fire Jackson had learned to make, sharing stories of their respective cultures. He taught her human songs, his voice rough but warm in the alien twilight. She showed him the ancient Nithara meditation techniques, their bodies moving in harmony under the stars. One night, as they lay together in the shelter they had built, Zara traced the constellation of scars across his chest. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. "Losing your old life?" Jackson captured her hand, bringing it to his lips. "I regret the pain it caused others. I regret the lies that divided our peoples. But this," he gestured to encompass their small world, her presence beside him, "this is worth everything." There, love-making that night was tender and desperate, two souls finding solace in each other while the galaxy searched for them. But even paradise couldn't last forever. The next morning, they awoke to the sound of approaching ships. Keth's voice crackling over the communication array. "Surrender now, and I promise the female will be unharmed. Continue this charade, and you both will be eliminated as threats to galactic peace." New Don Jackson's first instinct was to run, but Zara stood firm. "No more running," she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "We have the truth now. It's time to use it." Dr. Keth arrived with a strike team, but also with recording equipment and a full council of Nithara elders. He intended to stage a public execution, to finally put the Shadow Walker to rest and cement his own legacy as a protector of their people. "Citizens of the galaxy," he began, his voice broadcasting across multiple systems. "Today we end the threat that has haunted our species for 2 centuries. But Zara activated their hidden transmitter, overriding the signal. "Citizens of the galaxy," she said, stepping forward with Jackson at her side. "Today we reveal the truth that has been hidden from you." The evidence they had gathered streamed across the networks. The original peace negotiations, the conspiracy, the fabricated records. Seraphine's final message, hidden in the archives, spoke of her love for Jackson and her hope that one day their peoples could unite. Dr. Keth's face went pale as his role in the cover-up was exposed. The strike team lowered their weapons, uncertain now of who was truly the enemy. The council elders, faced with undeniable proof, began to question everything they thought they knew. "You see," Zara said, her hand finding Jackson's, "love doesn't recognize species or boundaries. It only recognizes truth. And the truth is that we are stronger together than apart." The revolution that followed was not one of violence, but of understanding. The revelation sparked a galaxy-wide movement toward reconciliation. Humans, thought extinct, began emerging from hidden colonies and remote worlds where they had survived in secret. 6 months later, Jackson and Zara stood before the newly formed Interspecies Council as the first ambassadors of unity. Their wedding had been broadcast across the galaxy, a symbol of hope for a future where love could bridge any divide. "We cannot change the past," Jackson said in his address to the gathered representatives. "But we can choose to build a better future, one where the children of all our species can grow up knowing each other as friends, not enemies." Zara smiled as she felt the life growing within her, a perfect blend of human and Nithara genetics that would have been impossible without their love. In the audience, she could see former enemies working together, planning colonies where their peoples could live in harmony. That night, as they returned to their new home on Kiram, now a thriving settlement of mixed families, Jackson called her, close under the alien stars. "Do you think Serafina would approve?" he asked softly. Zara looked up at the constellation that the humans called the Lover's Embrace, where Nithara tradition said the spirits of the peaceful went to rest. "I think she's been waiting for this moment for 200 years. As they kissed under the watching stars, the galaxy seemed to exhale, finally ready to heal from the wounds of the past and embrace the promise of tomorrow.